Hi all, welcome to Let's Catch Up and Interact Share session. This is a second podcast. We're inviting a senior leaders. This is a unique opportunity to engage them and get from them the insights and practical experience, which will provide all of us with the knowledge across various fields, seek actionable insights from them, which can enrich our personal and professional growth. This is Milind Mutalik. And the first podcast, which we've had on 18th of March 25, was with Mr. Dinesh Gupte. Okay, so let me start by setting up a context with a story titled The Morning Commute Navigating the Complexity. Every morning, while I start from my office journey, the chaotic traffic is something which is normal. It often feels that the cars are lined up like a soldiers at their attention, each one focused on their own progress towards the destination. There's a collective urgency of a commuter eager to move, find the gap where they can move further towards their destination. In my observation, my driver carefully analyzes the lanes, actively scanning any of the signs of movement that would allow him to move ahead. Each of the passing moment, I can sense the tension which is around, and been through a scenario of countless times. Once you change the seemingly faster lane, you end up finding that you're stuck in the traffic, which is crowding. So, change of lanes, hoping quickly to get through. But to our dismay, the speed in the new lanes rapidly diminishes. This cycle of switching the lanes, desperately seeking the least resistance, leave us asking what influences these choices? Is it purely skill of a driver, the dynamic behavior of motorist, or a complex interplay of unseen factors dictate our progress in the travel? This traffic story serves as a vivid metaphor for the uncertainties in the business strategy, business complexities, strategic decision making, collective patience, or even the approach of collaboration. Let's understand more about the subject on a business strategy with the expert, none other than Mr. CS Anand. Mr. Chittur Subramaniam Anand goes by the name CS Anand. I'll quickly introduce him. He's a postgraduate marketing from Jamnalal Bajaj Institute, Mumbai. Along with that, he's a postgraduate in commerce from Bombay University, graduate in law, and did his diploma in computer science. He has worked with various organizations, to name a few: DHL as a regional manager, Merck Sealand as general manager, Discrete System as director, P&O as vice president, Hapag Lloyd as a managing director, WNS, and CGM as regional managing director. He had played several roles along with the high level of roles in terms of strategy. He's also managed the micro level of deliverables like a business process, operations management, P&L responsibility, revenue, customer experience management, operational excellence in the Global Capability Center. He has served as a member of board of directors uh, in CMS CGM, Global Capability Center in India, and also in Sri Lanka, Malaysia operations. He is also, being a board of directors into Sri Lanka and Malaysia, worked as a senior leadership into CEO and vice president role. Very recently, for last 4 years, he has done the assignment on a transformation of a technology for Meritus Group, which is US 500 million annualized revenue group of Indonesia. Also worked on a transformation, and further, in the last assignment, he was engaged with Meritus Group as a senior advisor in digital transformation, focused on guiding organization to next generation into capabilities area of strategy, digital, as well as innovation, enterprise application, and working on a strategic partnership. He's a global traveler, also traveled extensively into Europe, Americas, Far East, Middle East regions, and some parts of China, Shenzhen, and Chongqing. CS spent the time with FedEx Hub Operation, a distribution center in Memphis, USA, as a part of his personal initiative to better understand the overall operations and how technology works effectively, integrating the operations. So, here, CS for you, we are going to have a question answer session with CS starting now. So, welcome, CS. Let's start with the questions. Good morning, CS. Welcome to the podcast. Let's catch up, interact, and share.
Thanks, Milan. Good morning to you, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm glad we are doing this podcast in this beautiful setup, natural setup of Pune University, with all these, birds chirping around and people walking around, and great weather here. We will definitely be energized. Our brains will work better,
Okay.
and the responses perhaps will be more compelling as we go along.
So, though we are sitting in the natural setup, I'm going to ask you questions on the hard topic of strategy and transformation.
Yeah.
So,
So
let me go ahead with the first question. What key factors do you consider when aligning an organization vision with its strategic goals during the transformation? So, it's more of alignment of the goals with the strategic vision.
see, vision and strategic alignment. These are both complex areas, but they have to be uh, in sync, and they have to be in good harmony. If there are any conflicts, if there are any rough edges, then there will be serious challenges for the organization. So, on one hand, we are looking at the business model, which is more about linking it or tagging it to the vision. On the other hand, we are looking at markets. So there is something internal, there's something external, which is the markets. And the third dimension is about resources. So you have business model on one side, markets on the other, and resources. So this is the triology you need to work with. Now, in this midst or a complex model, we are throwing in transformation, which is more about resetting a paradigm. So identifying a new way of taking the organization forward to achieve next generation goals, etc. So these are three elements which become the key areas of focus when we talk about vision and strategic alignment. And it's not that we can do one and we can leave out the other. We need to work on all of them. We need to generate, adequate traction in all these three areas. So you need a strong core organization to ensure that we keep moving in these three elements to achieve vision, and then ensure that the strategies are aligned to achieve that vision in the midst of doing a reset. And that reset is all about transformation, which we are working on.
Thank you, CS. CS, the second question comes in. How do you balance the need for immediate results against the necessity of investing in the long term strategic initiative?
This is a major challenge for most of the organizations, because the stakeholders want to see results, because it's an organization which is a running organization. We're not talking about a startup. Then the model is very different. So this is a real challenge for most of the organization. You need to accomplish the short-term goals to ensure that you have adequate cash flows, you have adequate profitability to invest into the future. If you overload the future, your current will get impacted, which means your foundation is impacted. So largely, when we look at long term and short term, and all great organizations, all blue chip organizations are very well balanced in the short term, in the axis of short term and long term. Both are very critical, and anyone and every organization which achieves that balance, they are able to make that huge impact and progress. So largely we need to look at what is impactful. So everything is based on impact, and based on impact you draw up the priorities. So when we do a impact priority matrix, then you are able to determine that these are the areas which are going to give me the results which I need in the short term to fund my future, to help me invest into the future. So if you are not able to prioritize, then there is an issue. And when you prioritize also, you need to ensure that you are looking at impact.
Okay.
Because everything appears to be important for all of us in all organizations. Everything appears to be important, and everything appears to be critical as well.
Absolutely.
But the key is, can I prioritize based on impact, so that my short term goals are accomplished without losing sight of the long term investments that need to be done.
Wonderful. Thank you. The next one, what are some of the most significant barriers to transformation you have encountered and how did you overcome them?
Okay, very interesting question. Actually, it depends on the organization you work with and the industry you work with. You know, whether it's in the service industry or whether it is in manufacturing. But largely, when we talk about transformation, everything is people centric. So everything else will be willing to adapt, everything else will be willing to change, whether it is a plant in a manufacturing organization, whether it is technology, whether it is infrastructure, all that will be prepared for changes because they don't have emotions, they don't have any sort of a response, they accept, they absorb, and they go forward. But when it comes to people, and it's only the people challenge. I think transformation is all about people. Everything else on business process, on all other infrastructure can be altered, a new paradigm can be set. But when it comes to people, it's a huge challenge. And the reason for the challenge is everyone's question is what happens to me?
Okay.
We are all conditioned to work in a defined area, which over time becomes our comfort zone. So we know our coordinates. So when the people who are doing some exercises here,
Yeah.
if they are told go to a new place and do your, yoga, etc., there'll be a little bit of discomfort that
Yes.
now I need to move from here
Yes.
and go to some other place. And this becomes even more compelling because everyone links their career path, everyone links their material aspirations to their professional side. So every time a change occurs, there's always a feeling of threat.
Okay.
Will it impact adversely what I have planned as far as my life is concerned, my family is concerned, etc.? So it's normal reaction. If we are able to manage the human dimension, uh, the emotional intelligence aspect also comes
Yes.
in here. I
Yeah.
won't go into the details of it, but if you are able to manage the human dimension and ensure we communicate well and stay connected with an inclusive approach, then transformation is a journey. Still, there are no shortcuts, but transformation is a journey which will have some cool breeze. Otherwise, everything will blow hot, everyone will struggle, and finally it will stop or collapse. So,
Okay.
if people dimension is addressed, I
Absolutely.
think you have a major trump card with you in terms of the transformation journey.
Great. The next one, how do we define the success or milestones of the transformation initiative and what are the key performance indicators do you really prioritize?
It's a very complex question, actually. But when you look at transformation and some of the matrices or some of the measures for success, whether the journey is on course, because transformation is a journey. There are no like completed areas. It's an ongoing journey which will happen. But there are two dimensions which we need to look at. One is internal, within the organization. How is the transformation journey impacting employee experience,
Okay.
impacting employee motivation,
Right.
impacting the general ecosystem
Okay.
within the organization? And there are various elements when we talk about ecosystem. There is people dimension, there will be technology, there will be strategies and things like that. There are various elements when we talk about the internal dimension. The other dimension about transformation is the external dimension, which is more about customer experience, which is more about markets.
Right.
These are the two dimensions that needs to be managed well, and all measurements of success, all milestones or toll gates are tagged to these two dimensions. And the overlaying layer above these two dimensions are the stakeholders, the key stakeholders. Now, these stakeholders could be the investors,
Okay.
these stakeholders could be government organizations, these stakeholders could be other institutions which are managing compliances and things like that. So, we can't do changes disruptive changes by going against the law of the land.
Okay. Yeah.
So those institutions also are a measure whether we are confining within those defined laws of the land. The external dimension is we are doing all this for the customer to
Right.
get a better experience, to improve our market share, to
Absolutely.
improve our volumes, to improve
Yeah.
our profitability, etc. Are they getting the benefit? And is this entire journey giving us the desired results? And third is within the organization. Have we dismantled the organization to such an extent that people are now not able to respond in a positive way to deliver goods or services to the external side? So the measure needs to be around the internal area, measure
Right.
needs to be around the external area, and the overlaying stakeholder management area.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. So, CS, how do we ensure that the stakeholders remain engaged and supportive throughout the transformation process?
So even before we begin the journey, I think there has to be uh, alignment amongst all the key stakeholders on what we are embarking upon.
Okay.
So there needs to be a clear articulation on what the roadmap is going to be looking like, why we are doing it. So fundamentally, I'll borrow the questions of Simon Sinek when he says it's all about why, what, and how. So these three questions needs to be put on the table. These three questions needs to be answered when even before we begin this journey, and that will ensure that there is perfect harmony in terms of understanding of why we are embarking on this journey. So that is the first step of getting everyone aligned onto a common page that this is why. So it's a shared vision.
Right.
It's a shared vision that this is why we are embarking on this transformation. After that, it is very important to create communities
Okay.
within the organization to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that whatever key areas of focus are there for the transformation process, people are actively engaged. We are not trying to create an island within an organization.
Got it.
We are talking about an organization transformation, which means everyone within, everyone who is dealing with the organization, and the external world as well.
Yeah.
So when we look at all these elements, and why all these elements become important, this is how you keep the stakeholders engaged.
Absolutely.
If you don't keep stakeholders engaged by showing them the full canvas, they lose interest, because the idea is that I am making a wide ranging impact when we are embarking on a transformation journey. So you create that alignment, you create that roadmap, you create these communities of change within the organization so that it's an inclusive approach, and then ensure at regular stages you communicate through dashboards or whatever is the way,
Got it.
in terms of what is the progress and what is being accomplished.
Wow.
So if you are able to do this consistently, it's a long journey.
Got it.
It's not like 3 weeks or 3 months and all that. That is change.
Yes. Yes.
We are not talking about change. So there is a huge difference between change, which is momentary, to transformation, which is irreversible.
Okay.
It's a reset, a new paradigm, a new business model for the organization to go to the next level. So you need to communicate, you need to create those dashboards so that you are able to articulate to the key stakeholders that this is how it is progressing, this is the impact, this is how the organization and stakeholders will benefit. So if you are able to cover this entire canvas, I'm sure every stakeholder will be more than excited to support it through the entire journey.
Very interesting. See, as the last question, what's your reflecting on your career? What has been the most rewarding transformation project and why?
So 3 decades, 3 decades of professional journey in the logistics space, and I've been fortunate to work in large global organizations, in global projects, and I've met thousands of people, met several brilliant guys from whom I could learn. And when you work in multiple organizations on
Mm-hmm.
global projects, you learn a lot.
Got it.
And it is so every project that I worked on, they are all special for me. So if you ask me to name one, it is very difficult. But having said this, I'd pick one project. The reason is, on the first day I was told it'll fail.
Okay.
On the first day I was told by many of the stakeholders that this project is a non-starter, and they were wondering why I decided to take up that assignment.
So CS has been challenged.
So I have been challenged, and they felt that the project is set up to fail, not to succeed. It's very important for projects to be set up to succeed. And with these sort of comments, and with in this sort of a background, uh, I took up the assignment with CMA CGM. So my
Okay.
favorite assignment is CMA CGM, where I spent a little more than 7.5 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And during that period of 7.5 years, it began with me as the first employee.
Okay.
And when I stepped down as a CEO after 7.5 years, there were 3,300 employees.
Wow. Wow.
And I'm not going into the details, but it was a huge success.
Uh-huh.
And the reason for it being a huge success was that I had to prove something to myself,
Okay.
not to others, because I had to prove that it was a challenge which I had taken up. I had to prove that I can compete in an environment, in a situation where nobody felt that it can be successful, it can be implemented. So there were various elements that were playing out. So amongst the various themes that were playing out, I managed to navigate through them and then ensure that the project is successful. And the complexity uh, had to be managed through a leadership personality which can be decisive. There were a lot of risks that had to be taken, and there were a lot of things which normally you would not want to
Okay.
do or get engaged with. And this was a project also which took away a lot of time. So the amount of time that had to be invested every day, we have this debate or a theme of 70 hours versus 90 hours versus 100 hours, etc. I find it hilarious, because you will do all the work that is required to be done.
Yes.
Whether it is 10 hours or 90 hours hardly matters.
Okay.
But so the investment of time, investment of emotions and passion into work, all that was challenged and was required. Hence, the project on CMA CGM was one of my best projects. I enjoyed it. I continue enjoying whatever consulting work that I do even today. But there is a clear reason why I would pick up CMA CGM.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, CS. CS, so thanks a lot for your time. I know with all the technological barriers, we could still manage so called in the natural settings.
Yeah.
And this was a challenge given by you, which probably, I again was pushed back. And till yesterday evening, I was not knowing what to do. But it could happen. I'm happy about it. So let me bring back onto the topic. We discussed about strategy and transformation. Some of the important factors or dimensions which we have covered are vision and strategy alignment, long term versus the short term goals, change management, how do you really measure the success of the transformation, how do you engage the stakeholders. We looked at what is the leadership or leadership development required when it comes to a transformation. And the seventh one, you shared your personal experience and personal favorite project which you love to do in your transformation. So once again, a lot of insights for the people who are going to watch and learn from this. And thank you once again, CS.
Thanks, Milan, very much for this opportunity. I'm delighted that we could do it in this sort of an environment, and I'm glad you could make it happen despite the challenges that were there. It's a pleasure to talk to you as always, and I'm hopeful that our conversation today would be found interesting by the people who view the podcast. I would also take this opportunity to wish you all the best
Thank
in the
you.
series of
Thank you.
podcasts that you are going to be engaged with. And I'm hoping to come back to your show soon to
Thank
talk to you
you.
further. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much,
And
Milan.
looking forward to the next
Thank you.
session.
Thank you,
Thank
Milan.
you.
Thank you.